Hi everyone, Matthew DeSantis here with NYRA Bets, and welcome back to another very special video where myself and NYRA analyst Paul Lo Duca go over the late pick three on Friday at Oaklawn Park. And it's a really fun sequence. Obviously, three races in this pick three for the late sequence there at Oaklawn, but really nice allowance race snuck in the middle of two claiming races. So make sure to stick around. Paul and I are going to be giving out our picks and giving out our tickets for that sequence. And oh, by the way, there's a pretty great promotion as it relates to the late pick three too. But before we get to that, make sure to press that like button and subscribe to the NYRA Bets YouTube channel today. Subscribing is entirely free of cost, just notifies you when new videos are dropping on the channel. And yes, even over the holidays, we are constantly having new content, whether it's on the YouTube channel or on the NYRA Bets website. So make sure to check out all that we have. Well, like I said, we have a great promotion that's running this Friday, $3,000 hit and split. That's right. NYRA Bets is adding $3,000 into that late pick three pool at Oaklawn on Friday. You opt into the promotion, you play the pick three. Everyone else who hits it gets to split an extra $3,000. It's a great way of taking a low cost wager and adding a little bit of money to your profits. It's going to be races 8 through 10 on Friday at Oaklawn. So it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about this one. And here to join me, my good friend and NYRA analyst is Paul Lo Duca. Paul, thanks so much for coming back week two. We gave out some good picks in week one, and we're back to do it again.
Yeah, we would have combined ours last week. We would have hit. So this is actually technically, I guess, week three because we didn't have any time to do week one in 2 days. But right. Yeah, it's week three of the meet, or week two. We're going to be doing these every Wednesday or Thursday. This week, Thursday. But yeah, listen, Oaklawn's tough. And you made a good point today, too. Race number 9 on Friday, it could be like a little mini grade 3. It's a pretty good little race. So, yeah, 8, 9, and 10 is a good little sequence.
It is. No, you're right. That race 9 could be like, you're right, like a sneaky grade 3 listed 6 type of a field. That's a good field. But before we get into this sequence, obviously we had some big news. You mentioned we're recording Thursday. Early Thursday morning, we found out, obviously, the passing of Uncle Mo, former Breeders' Cup juvenile winner, former winner of the Champagne, obviously up here in New York, owned by Mike Rapoli, trained by Todd Pletcher, very much so a New York staple, Uncle Mo, and has gone on to just a prodigious sire career as well. Nyquist, Vekoma, or not Vekoma, I should say, but Yalpin and Golden Pal, a lot of great offspring to carry his name on. But obviously, big news today and a sad day to see the passing of Uncle Mo.
Yeah, it is a sad day. Mike, a New Yorker through and through. Whether you like him or not, he's got passion for the game. And, brings a lot of people, his family, into the winner's circle. And Uncle Mo was his horse. I mean, and he was kind of that horse, Matthew, I would say probably was better in the breeding shed than he was on and he was a good horse. Maybe I'm saying that wrong, but he really was very good because he could get a horse on turf, dirt, synthetic, mud. He was very versatile sire. He's going to be very sadly missed, Uncle Mo. And it's kind of like, when we lost Arrogate, kind of just knew that his horses were going to be really good. And you're going to see these Uncle Mo's keep on running for years as he's in heaven and watching them run across the wire first. But sad day today in racing. Anytime you lose a super horse like that, and a tremendous sire too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he had a relatively brief career on the track, but obviously his career as a sire has spanned quite some time now. And and it's great to see that his legacy is going to live on even through horses like Nyquist, horses like Yalpin, horses like Golden Pal. And you talk about 3 completely different horses too. I mean, that's to your point, a dirt sprinter, a turf sprinter, and a dirt router. I mean, he kind of could do it all in that regard as a sire. So sad day, but obviously has given us a lot of great horses to talk about on the track. And so let's transition to talking about some of the races on the track. And we're going to kick off this late pick 3 at Oaklawn on Friday. Race number 8, $35,000 claimer for 3-year-olds and up, going a mile, which is 2 turns on the turf. You have a favorite in this one from Mike Maker, own the field at 2-1. You also have a horse by Brad Cox, JT's Imagination, on the inside rail, going 7-2. This one feels like a pretty wide open race, Paul. Where did your eyes go, and kind of how are you approaching this leg of the sequence?
I'm kind of with you. It's wide open. It's a handicapping tool I've learned a long time ago. When a horse drops into this condition as a big favorite and loses, they're a play against. Now, that's what Own the Field did. Own the Field was a horse that had been running against better horses. Kind of tailed off a little bit. Then Michael Maker dropped him in kind of to like an allowance non-winners, star allowance non-winners of 3. But if you looked at the field, there was a lot of claimers in that field. He was a favorite. Now he drops him for Flying P Stable. I get it. They were hot as a pistol at Saratoga.
Yeah.
But I don't trust Own the Field, put it that way. I think he's one of those horses. I call him Ricky Bobby. He's either going to be first or last. You know what I mean, Matt? So, like, yeah, I don't trust him. So I'm going to go a little deeper in this field. That was my opinion on him. I don't know what your opinion was.
Yeah. No, I had a similar opinion. I mean, when you kind of drop in against Claiming Company a couple of times, and you mentioned Flying P was off to a very blistering, summer. Maker's gotten off to a little bit of a slow start at Oaklawn. And I just thought, you're not seeing this horse run back to those mid to high 80s buyer speed figures. And so you wonder if he turns in another 70 something, this race opens up. And, a horse that I really like, it's probably my top pick in this race, is the Brad Cox horse. Even though Cox is 0 for 10 at Oaklawn to start out the meet, but JT's Imagination at 7-2 inside rail with Isaac Castillo aboard. I like Isaac a lot as a jockey in the spot. This is one, listen, Brad Cox off the claim. You don't think of him doing it very often, but over the last 5 years, he's winning 46% of horses off the claim when he runs them back in mid-level claiming races, which this is. So, I mean, this is one of those angles where he's running this horse back, for a little bit more of an expensive claiming tag than what he got it for. And I just think this one at 7-2, interesting horse to use in this spot. I also thought the number 7, Aaron, at 8-1 for Ray Ashford Jr. with Christian Torres aboard was a little bit interesting, making the class drop from Allowance Company at Remington Park into Claiming Company here. And this horse has run some good races on turf, broke its maiden on turf, and actually won a follow-up race against winners on the turf. But you look at the dirt races, and they're solid. And
they're real solid, yeah.
I thought at 8-1, that was a horse worth including at a little bit of a price.
Yeah, first of all, a lot of people don't know Ray Ashford. He's a good trainer. This is his first year since I've been here that he's brought a stable up here. And I think the obviously the tip is Christian Torres getting aboard. So Christian's going to draw money, first of all. But I would think Aaron's ready. And you make a great point. He is off back-to-back wins. He was multiple favorites on the turf. But the one dirt race, he ran a bang-up race. And he looks like he's rateable. I like Aaron. I don't think Aaron get 8-1. I'm with you too on the one horse. I mean, because you look at the owner, Blake Cox. Obviously, I want to say it's for his son. I think that's his son, but don't quote me on that. But so you claim a horse to have a little fun with. But I think when Brad claims these type of horses, he's not messing around. If I was going to use a horse in here, it would be the 2 Mighty Message. And the reason why is the first time he's in for a claiming tag. It looked like Tom Amos so far has had his horses rolling, at least in the fire. This horse is, I get it. Don't let Delta Downs fool you. We've had some win from Delta, more than we've had from Delaware. So Delta's actually kind of been somewhat of a live track. We had a 1-horse win by a pole from Evangeline. So the Louisiana tracks have been okay. And I think that horse on the drop. And then I threw in the 10, Myra's Boy for Rocco Bowen. I kind of like 12. I like long shots that this horse never been on the dirt. Unknown. Norm McKnight, good trainer, trains him. Won some races last year here. I like taking flyers on horses like this, never been on dirt, because you just never know what's going to happen. So I threw him in my pick 3.
Yeah, and it's interesting. If you look, he's got that November 22nd work over the dirt at Woodbine's training track, which is not synthetic. It is dirt, and he went 47-2. So, I mean, he clearly didn't have any issues covering the ground that day, going 4 furlongs in that work. And that's one that, again, if you can work out the trip from the outside, but the outside post position hasn't been disqualifying by any stretch going 2 turns yet. You've seen winners coming from, that post 8, 9, 10. So you can definitely, carve out the right trip with this regard. But yeah, I think this was one where you can, try to catch a little bit of a price in this first leg. So let's take a
and
look.
don't forget, Matt.
Oh yeah, go for it.
This races to the first wire, so
Yeah.
that's key. So the outside slots could be a little funky, and most of the time when they go to the short wire, for a lot of people don't know, there's 2 wires at Oaklawn. The short wire, they start the wire, they go to the short wire, so the stretch is not that long. So
no, it's not.
Speeds, you got to be up close a little bit.
You do, and you also have to do what people always refer to as the classic Oaklawn middle move, which if you are a little further back, you gotta make that move sooner than you normally would. You cannot wait until you're towards the end of the turn. You gotta move either right before you hit the turn or during the early stretch of that turn and get into position so you're sitting basically second or third at the top of the stretch, because you're not going to be able to mow down a lot of horses with that short stretch in the first wire. So
100%,
yeah, great point to bring up there. Let's go to what is, you said it, kind of a stakes quality field, quite frankly. When you look at race number 9, $133,000 allowance race for 3-year-olds and up, going 6 furlongs on the dirt, and you see a lot of familiar names in this race. You see a horse like Raise Kane, who won the Gotham a couple of years ago. You see a horse like Banishing for David Jacobson, Rivet for Steve Asmussen, Kavad, Tejano Twist for Chris Hartman. Really nice horse who loves Oaklawn Park. So it's an interesting race. My general philosophy on this one is I'm trying to beat Tejano Twist a little bit, who's your tepid morning line favorite at 7-2. And because I love him, but he's just that deep closer and sprinter, and he just hasn't gotten home much from lately.
We're on the same wavelength. I threw him out of my pick 3. I honestly, when you have a horse like Banishing for David Jacobson, that's basically a head away from 3 in a row, and you're 5-1 on the morning line. It's a salty race. And the buyer has been 95, 91, and 88. Even the 2, the Iowa bred, are less chance. I know they try to throw him on dirt. He's been razor fast. I get it, they're against Iowa breds, but those are still fast races. So those horses can be kind of sneaky. Kavad is a old kind of class horse, great claim by Joe Sharp. And then, like you said, you have Edge to Edge in here has got 4 or 5, I think, 3-digit buyers. He's got 3 on the page. You got Run for Ray Ashford. Used to be in the Brett Calhoun barn. So, even Edge to Edge at 15-1 is kind of surprising. He's 6 years old right now, still a horse. And, I guess no need to geld him, but he's a dangerous type of horse that could throw up any kind of number. So, a really salty field. And I just decided to go deep because my thing is which one of these horses, Matt, is going to reach back for that race? Because there's like 5 or 6 horses. I threw out Rivet. Rivet can win this race, but he's got to go back pretty far. Like, there's almost every horse in this race has a race that you can go say he has a race on the form that can win this race.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's just a matter
maybe
of how
except
far,
Osborne. I would think.
Yeah, and even that horse, I've always been interested in Osborne. I've always thought he had some talent, just hasn't really ever materialized. But he's it's an interesting dynamic because you're right. Everybody's got to kind of go back to a race at some point, and it's a matter of how do they run. Sometimes you'll see some distinction between running with and without Lasix. Sometimes you'll see, obviously, the distinction. Obviously, everybody's getting Lasix here, but, obviously, even a horse like Raise Kane getting the blinkers put on the inside rail, does that maybe perk that horse up a little bit? Maybe he kind of goes back to some form that he used to see in the past. And, again, I think it's also an issue where, Tejano Twist, again, he's that deep closer, and I know that you can close at Oaklawn sprinting, but I don't think there's a crazy amount of pace in this race. And I just see him more as a horse that if you're playing this race vertically and your, trifectas, your superfectas, sure, you have to include him because he's always going to make his run. Yeah. But as a win bet, as a 7-2 tepid favorite, I'm always going to try to beat those types of horses. And I'm with you on Our Last Chance. That's a horse I really liked a lot, the number 2. The Iowa bred. I think that horse has got a real shot.
The speed, Matt?
He could be. He could be. And especially from that inside post position in the 2, you would imagine that De La Cruz is going to be pretty aggressive and try to get him up there to avoid getting pinched back in any way. So he's got great natural speed and could very easily get up there. He's got a good record of going this distance. He's run at Oaklawn before and run competitively. He ran second against Open Company in a $75,000 optional claimer back in April. And the only reason his race before that might not look quite as good as it was coming off of about a 9-month layoff. So, he's a good horse. And I think, like you said, he's been doing damage against Iowa breds, but I think he's more than fit to run against Open Company like this.
Well, you look, he was getting better and better. And I think Doug said, let's just take a chance with him on the turf and see what we got for a nice purse. And you just got to draw a line through that race at Keeneland. But his races without Lasix, with Lasix, his races with Lasix, a diamond, he was getting really good. I mean, in July and September. And I do love that he has recent races. I'm with you. I think the 2 is the horse that could wire this field, surprise the field. I use many. So I'm deep because I'm going to single on the last. I went 2, 3, 5, 9, 10. I think edge to edge is very interesting. You talk about the Lasix. He's kind of the other horse. If you go back, has some back speed. And when you're saying there's not a ton of speed in here, he could be laying second right off and in a better position than he has been in the past.
No, you're absolutely right. He could run back to April 7th race in the Eclipse, where he basically was just stalking the pace.
Exactly.
And then made the move. And got that big 101 buyer speed figure. So, he could absolutely do it. And he's coming off a little bit of a layoff, but that usually means you're going to see that, really good early speed. He's going to feel ready to go. So could absolutely run back to that. The other one I included, I also like the 10 quite a bit in this race as well. Run Classic for Ray Ashford Jr. Again, this one, willing to cross out the last race over a muddy sealed track at Delta Downs going a mile. You look at what this horse does going the distance, 5 for 6 in the exacta with 2 wins. This one has some good races to run back to. Actually went overseas to run in the Dubai Golden Shaheen last year, or I should say earlier this year. And, came back to run pretty well against some nice horses like Jackson Traveler and
Jackson Traveler can run.
Yeah. So, again, at 6 to 1,
my song can run, Happy American. He's running against some good horses. I didn't realize that. Run Classic's running against some really nice horses.
Yeah. So, I agree. Kind of a spready race there. But let's head to the final leg, which is a $14,000 claimer for 3-year-olds and up. Again, going 6 furlongs. And, you took a stance in this race and you decided to single in this 11-horse field. Again, kind of no overwhelming favorite here. Your tepid morning line favorite is the number 8 Dance Man for Sean Williams at 3 to 1, followed by Independent Paul for David Jacobson at 7 to 2. But you had your eye on a horse that's coming off a claim in a new barn for this one, the number 5 Corridor. What drew you to this horse?
Well, you know what? Last week when we did it was Cozy, my boy. So, and same trainer, Abel Ramirez Rodriguez. This guy is up and coming. He's been moving horses up. If you go back and you look at Corridor, he started his race career at Sam Houston, and he had some really good numbers. And then it seemed like Scott Young kind of gave up on him. He had kind of lost his early speed a little bit. And then last time out, he got dead left. I don't know how he won the race, to be honest with you. Rushed up and won it. And, from a lower kind of barn, this guy's been moving horses up 7 to 8 buyer points. Now, if a lot of people don't know who Abel Ramirez Rodriguez is, Carl Broberg retired. He was an assistant for Carl. He now trains for End Zone Athletics and some from other people. This one is for End Zone Athletics. And they're just very heady with their claims. And I understand this horse. I don't love playing horses first time against winners, but I love that they put the horse in a reasonable spot at 12,000 14,000 non-winners at 2. And I do think, thanks, Frank, I think there's some horses in here that are like the Matt Sherwood horse that's very good. If Independent Paul wins, I probably should be an idiot. But I just think Corridor, you're going to get a decent price. You get Christian Torres aboard for a reason. I have a feeling this horse could be running in the 60 to 70 buyer range with some speed. So that was my take on the horse. I'm going with a hot trainer off a win. And sometimes that's the light bulb angle, hadn't won in 9 tries and then boom, wins and then can come right back. And I think this horse can be tactical.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. He's absolutely on my ticket as well. And to your point, I wasn't going to let this trainer beat me 2 weeks in a row. So, he was absolutely going to be included on my ticket in the bailout race. I also took a look at the number 4 horse in this race. We'll take cash at 10-1 for Dan Ward. This one, listen, the last time out was no good. It just, that was not a great effort. But you look at the race 2 back, against winners and $20,000 claimer, non-winners of 2. Finished third that day. I also like that this horse has run against horses that have come back to win next time out. Gets Isaac Castillo aboard here. The blinkers are coming off. You get a little bit of a new barn with Dan Ward. And so just thought this was kind of a winning angle for Dan to take the blinkers off. Pretty good with new horses in the barn. This horse has good speed. Excuse me, with the blinkers off, maybe the horse relaxes a little bit, or is just maybe not so wound up so tight and is able to kind of sustain that 6 furlong. So I was going to throw that one in as a little bit of a flyer. Nice. And then I am including Dance Man for Sean Williams. This one is, it's kind of second time against, or third time, I should say, against winners. And has some good numbers going back to those maiden claiming 50 races at Santa Anita at Los Al, and is making the trip from California to Oaklawn for the first time. We have seen some California shippers do well. Most of those have been for the Peter Miller barn, but still, we've seen some California horses run well at Oaklawn. So I'm including that one in there. And I'm not including Independent Paul. And I know David Jacobson's a trainer we're very familiar with up here in New York. And I just always have a hard time trusting his horses in some instances and what form you're necessarily always going to get from race to race. And so it's just one of those where at a short price, sometimes I'm going to try to get around a horse like this. Would not be shocked if he ran well, but I'm going to try to get around him.
I'm with you. I'm not a fan of Independent Paul. Like, listen, it's my name, and I'm not like my dad always said with your heart. I'm kind of with you. I do think the kid Tyler Bacon, getting 11 pounds is giant. And I think a lot of people don't put a lot on weights, but he's 1 for 12. That's why I kind of went away from him. And Rewire is 1 for 18. You look at Rewire's numbers, and he's right there too. But then you look at 1 for 18. Dance Man's or listen, he's got California speed. He's going to get to the front. I mean, if you look at some of his fractions he's thrown out there, he should get to the front with Harry Hernandez. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I hope I'm laying right behind you in that stalking position, because I know that the 5 can pass horses. The 4 interesting horses. Dan's very sharp too, and I like that play. That you make a good point. I mean, the 4 horses got like 10 horses that have come back and win in his PPs. So that's always key racing competition. And it looks like the 1, 2, and 3. I will say this though: if you're going to consider another horse, just the barn is hot. Is the Gennaro Garcia barn? If you think more than 5 can get back to a race or draw a line through that race, he's a player. But he's also 1 for 15. But Gennaro's off to a great start.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And the other horse we should mention that we didn't bring up is the Matt Shire horse. Thanks, Frank, at 9-2. That one, I think is cutting back from 1 mile and a 16th last time. Second back from a little bit of a layoff. You get the cut back. This horse has shown good speed in the past. Granted, it was more routing speed, but still, he's gotten to the front in a couple of sprints as well. So that's one that I think, you might be sitting in that kind of right tracking trip as well. So another one to certainly consider if you're trying to spread in this last race a little bit more. But what I liked about this week is we both ended up with tickets that were almost the exact same cost, and yet we built them very differently. You went kind of pretty deep. Yeah, in races 8 and 9, singled in race 10. I just kind of went 3x3x3. So you got a $25 ticket. I have a $27 ticket on the $1 base. But good news again is we can both hit these tickets together. So hopefully that's what happens this weekend.
Yeah, and for all the horse players out there, as of now, all 3 days, about 40 to 50. So it's going to be a little coldish, like 30, 40s, but supposed to be a dry racetrack all 3 days. So let's keep our fingers crossed for a nice, dry, fair racetrack.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed for that. Always good stuff.
And also, don't forget, Matt, I know we're dry in New York, but we'll also be having racing from Tampa.
Yes, absolutely. No, we're going to be having Oaklawn and Tampa this weekend, and you got the Poinsettia on Saturday
Oh yeah.
at Oaklawn, and that's good. I actually did a write up on that race for NYRA Bets. Looks to be a really fun race as well. Sappy Joseph Jr.'s horse Spirit Wind is confirmed to be running there, not down at Gulfstream Park. So it's some interesting horses in that race. You have a horse like Fibber who beat Tarifa a couple starts back. You got a horse like Esternia, who I kind of like at a big price. Who could be speed of the speed. So it's going to be an interesting race on Saturday, but we're going to be tuning in to watch you on America's Day at the Races, even though we're not up here in New York, man.
Sounds good. And then I'm going to tweet out my best bet for Saturday too, as well. I'll do a little video for that. So I'll send that out as well too. But yeah, let's cash Friday. So we have some cash for Saturday to play, and then we'll play the playing games too for the college playoffs.
Absolutely. You got to play those. I got some thoughts on that later. I'll tell you off camera. All right. So listen, thanks again, Paul. I really appreciate you hanging out with me today. And thank you all for watching, and make sure to press that like and subscribe button. Make sure to check out all the content that we have up on NYRA Bets. For Paul Lo Duca, my name is Matthew DeSantis, wishing you a great and profitable day at the races, and reminding you, friends, it's now post time.